Are you guys ready? You ready over there?
Yep.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There's been a change in our agenda. We're going to add an item under old business concerning well number 1 for the city of Shelton. And so everything else stays the same. So to start this commission meeting, what I'd like to do is go to our weekly commission reports and give you an update on what we are planning to do this week. So Commissioner Moore.
Okay. As usual, I'm going to go back a little bit first and report on a workshop that Steve Goins and I attended last week. It was entitled For Love of Cities, and it was focusing on the small things that the city can do to allow the citizens to become more involved and become more emotionally attached to their city, which it sounds really flowery and fun, but there were some very practical ideas that came from maybe 50 different towns, but it was really inspirational and fun, and I'll be sharing some ideas that have come out of that as we go along. A lot of it are things that we can fold into the visioning process as we move forward on that. So it was a really good half-a-day workshop, but it was very inspirational, and I'm really happy that we went to that. I want to remind everyone that it is Public Works Week, so look at the display out in the lobby. It's very nicely done, as usual. If you see some of our guys out doing their work, thank them for the hard jobs that they do, and celebrate the changes that are coming in our city as we do improvements to our infrastructure. Today, I was over with some helper bees who came from Tacoma to help me tear down the antennas that SBI saved, that we would be able to salvage those for when we're running our own railroad. We will need those antennas. And so it was a dirty, dusty, kind of icky job, but we got it done, so the antennas are on their way to Tacoma for safe storage. Tomorrow, we will continue our celebration of Public Works Week with a barbecue over at the shop for staff. I'm excited about attending that. I always like to tell the people thank you in person. Tomorrow afternoon, I have a Mason Transit Authority Board meeting. On Wednesday, I am going to be attending a meeting on behalf of Mason County Housing Coalition. I will be meeting with Tammy Newton with Catholic Community Services and Home First regarding some issues we're working towards as far as veterans housing, veterans shelter, and a diversion house. So I'm excited about that. We're getting closer there. On Thursday, there is a downtown visioning meeting that I will be missing because I will be going up to Port Hadlock to attend a Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization meeting with Greg Clark. And then on Saturday, I just want to give a shout out. I'm attending an event for the third time that is hosted by the Squaxin Museum. It's called Waves of Perfection, and it's a really fun, beautiful event that benefits their museum and thus benefits their programs that encourage cultural heritage and the good history of the Squaxin tribe in our area. So if you're looking for something to do Saturday night, I would highly recommend that event, Waves of Perfection. And that's my week.
Thank you very much, Commissioner
Well,
McDowell.
mine's not as full as yours, Tracy, but anyway. Let's see, tomorrow I'm going to be at the Public Works Barbecue. Before that, I'll be over at Choice High School helping out, doing whatever I do over there. And Thursday, I've been invited to the Economic Development Council's membership drive out at the Ridge. So that's my week.
Thank you. Tomorrow, I will be attending a Economic Development Council roundtable meeting here at the Civic Center between 9 and 11:30, talking about the aquaculture benefits and businesses and water and things like that here in Mason County. Wednesday, I'll be attending my monthly Criminal Justice Board meeting. And then Thursday, and I might squeeze a barbecue in there too. Whenever I hear the word barbecue, I kind of make a little note that I like those, you know. So I might go to that one there
Yeah.
too. But on Thursday, I'll be attending the Economic Development Council membership drive at the Ridgeway racetrack there. And then Friday, I have nothing planned. So that completes our weekly reports to you. And the next item is an opportunity for general public comment. If somebody wanted to talk about something, they could. If you want to talk about a specific subject, best wait until that specific subject, and then we have another one a little bit later on. So if anybody wants to talk right now about anything that's on their mind, we can welcome that. So.
Do you want to add that item to the agenda?
I did, the well issue under
Yeah.
old business.
Okay,
Oh, did
all
I
right,
forget to do
okay.
that? No, I thought I did.
You did.
I did.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right. So,
I do have a couple of
Okay, sure.
If you're ready for public comment. First up is Mr. John Osgood.
okay. Welcome, John.
Hi. I've been a resident of the city of Shelton for 37 years, and as some of the people in here know, for 36 of those years, I helped run the wastewater treatment plant. And I've been reading in the papers about the water well that needs to be redone, and I'm becoming troubled with the same rhetoric that I'm hearing over and over again. We can't do this because it's too expensive, because the rates are too high, and the same comment keeps coming up because of the wastewater plant, because of the sewer system. What isn't coming out is why those rates are that way. The present treatment plant was built in 1979. For 30 years, commissions came and gone and did not raise the rates sufficiently to take care of anything, and so the plant became older and older until the point where no one could be done anything with it.
What you might do, move your hand, it's not the one, it's the one where your hand is, I think,
Yeah.
maybe.
So
Yeah.
Hold it
There
down.
we- yeah.
the state more or less forced the city to do it because they threatened to do a moratorium on the city because the city was not fulfilling their obligations to their citizens or to the water quality. So by the time we had to do something, it was at inflated prices, which is the reason you have the high rates you have now. And yet I'm hearing the same rhetoric all over again with the water system. We can't do this, we can't do this. Until, of course, it's going to be too late, and then once again, we're going to have to pay high inflated rates because we've waited too long. The other thing that troubles me is that over the past year and a half, you've lost in excess of 14 people within the city. Within the next few weeks, you're going to be interviewing for an extremely important position. You need the best possible talent that you can get for that position. And I would think that if you have that kind of talent, you're going to be researching this city. And if I had researched this city and I hear that type of rhetoric and I see what possible way am I going to be able to make change when the city doesn't want to make change, I don't think you're going to get the talent that you need. Let's not make the same mistakes over and over and over again.
Thank you for your comments.
Next up, we have Miss Lisa Renfro.
Yes. Just state your name for the record, please.
Hi, Lisa Renfro. I was walking by the store, I think it was Safeco in Kitsap County, and in the window it says, "We believe in angels." And I'm a little bit literally illiterate, and then it took me a while to figure out, oh, it's the Blue Angels, it's the baseball team. And thinking, oh, well, that's a business. It can display something that has a word, that has some word that's symbolic, or has a meaning that may be similar, maybe not in the same context. So I thought, well, thinking a little bit more with the issue of In God We Trust, and how you have the pros and the cons, thinking maybe they could have a plaque or something in a glass shadow box or something upstairs where it's enclosed, where it will be protected, so it is not outside exposed vandalism, if they choose to put In God We Trust, because the city is a business also, and, right, so can it display what it wants to, where it wants to, if they choose to?
Thank you for your comments. Is that everybody that's signed up at the moment? We will be talking more about the well and water issue a little later under that, so did you want to speak to that under that when it gets to that section?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move on forward, and are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, could we please have the consent agenda?
Consent agenda. Number 1, vouchers numbered 11578 through 11699 in the amount of $1,235,608.25. Payroll warrants numbered 2008 through 2151 through 11574 in the amount of $622,529.46. Handwritten warrant numbered 11576 in the amount of $7,578.29 to Key to Purchase. Handwritten warrant numbered 11577 in the amount of $2,784.68 to Key to Purchase. Commission meeting minutes from study session of April 25th, 2016. Business meeting of May 2nd, 2016. Number 6, appointment of interim city clerk, Ms. Wendy Thompson. Number 7, vendor award form, Ace Tank, fuel system purchase. Authorize the city administrator to make any necessary budget modifications. Number 8, website, record software budget modifications. Authorize the city administrator to make any necessary budget modifications. And number 9, Public Works 2015 budget modifications, water fund, sewer fund, storm fund, solid waste fund. Authorize the city administrator to make any necessary budget modifications.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Go ahead. I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
And I second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The agenda passes. Now, under old business is, under Commissioner Moore wanted to talk about this evening, and we welcome the opportunity for a debate on anything that comes before the city. So I guess under old business, we want to talk about the well number 1 issue. And so would it be, do we want a little staff report first, or how did you see that?
I wanted to have an open discussion on it, and part of that definitely, I apologize, I didn't ask Greg if he wanted to give his points first.
No, I really don't have anything further to add from
Okay.
what we discussed last week, so.
Okay, as we all know, a year ago, we had this debate, and maybe it's been 2 years ago, and it drug on, and as we kept talking about it, the costs went up, and eventually we did make that decision and moved forward. And so some of our projects that we have completed are completed, but they cost a little bit more. There were, because of the delays, because construction costs go up 3 to 4% a year. And because we have spent so much time and so much effort and had so much staff time involved in this, we have already spent far more money on making this decision than I believe is practical for us to do. We have to weigh in all of those costs. We, before this came up, when we went ahead with it, we agreed that we would look at the bid package 2 or 3, this next phase of it, when the first phase was done. As it turns out, we came in within budget. The projects went great. Everything moved along. We had some scares last summer as our well 1 was deteriorating and we were worried last summer about the wildfire issue. This year, our weather is even drier than it was this year. We have patched together some of our water system, but it is still not sufficient for what our identified needs are. And so we got some grant money from the state for economic stimulus, and one of the things that we used for that was for an independent study done for a water modeling system to determine if we have adequate fire flow, if we have adequate storage, if we have adequate water for our community. So during the last, and that water study came back reporting that we do indeed need to follow through on what we have planned, what we already have the funding in place for. So that need has been confirmed. In 2002, our comprehensive plan called to the fact that we did not have adequate water. We didn't have adequate fire flow. We needed to update our systems. Well, that was the Department of Health. In 2012, we got the same study and the same report that we were inadequate, and that could cause all kinds of problems, such as not being able to handle fire flow. It could cause water rationing if our wells went low. It could also limit development and cause a moratorium. We've been there before with the sewer system, and we know how devastating that is when we have projects ready to go and we don't have the capacity for that. Nobody wants to come in and build a new building or start a new business and have to wait for the system to be built. So Greg and staff have done a really good job of showing us the economics. We've talked to the Department of Health, which, by the way, because of our dire straits and the extreme need for us to do these system improvements, we were given a grant, and we did qualify for a 1% loan, which is not heard of anymore. It's very unlikely we will ever get a 1% loan anymore. In Greg's report that he gave us last week, I had to study this a lot, but it looks like if we wait, if we put this off and wait, it is guaranteed that we're going to be paying a lot more money. Delaying will mean that we will be paying a lot more money while also putting us in a risk position for those years while we're waiting for that. So I think that I understand very much. I understand the reluctance about, paying more water, about putting more of a debt on our citizens. But I think if we do not vote to do this, if we don't vote to go ahead with this, what we are in effect voting for is to put the citizens at risk and put our building capacity at risk. And I am really hoping that we can come to some type of consensus on moving forward on this. And maybe it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe, I think John's Prairie was part of that initial plan that we had, and I don't think anybody's interested in going forward with John's Prairie at this time. But the fact is that we have lowered our development and building fees in an attempt to attract growth. And so I don't understand how that works together as far as come, but oh, don't use too much water. It doesn't make sense. So we do have also in here, I haven't heard from Sierra Pacific, and I haven't heard from the marijuana grow operations about their concerns with this. I'm very concerned, and I know that many of my neighbors are concerned. They don't want to go to water rationing. They want to make sure that their water that they get from their tap is safe, that we don't have to overtreat our water because the levels get too low. So I know Gary you've made your opinion quite clear. I'm assuming that hasn't changed. But I just wanted to have the conversation with Kathy because I don't feel like you've really weighed in a public meeting.
No, I haven't.
One thing, Tracy, appreciate your comments. This is not an issue against a well. What this is an issue about how we pay for the well.
Well, and what I'm saying is, we vote no, we're not going to spend the money on the well, but that means we vote yes, and we're willing to put our citizens at risk.
Okay, so let me just clarify my position. You've had a nice opportunity to say where you're coming from on this.
So you're going to go before Kathy?
That's all right. I still have the same
I
thing. I still have what I'm going to say, I'll say. Phil.
She's her own agent on this one. I just want to make sure we get the facts straight. I will just put my little opinion, but let's just go with the facts very clearly first, okay? And Mr. Clark, I think you can attest to these facts, okay? Number one is last summer, the well number one came close to running out of water, right? Mm-hmm. But facts are we have two wells. On top of we have two other wells, right?
Yes, well 3 and well 4.
Okay, we have two other wells. And how many reservoirs do we have in the city of Shelton?
We have Ingleside, we have High School Tank, we have Mountain View, we have Upper Mountain View's new tank, and
That's the one
We
off
have
Highway
the-
101?
yes,
Okay, and is that 250,000 or 500,000 gallons?
it's 400 gallons,
400,
400,000 gallons.
400,000.
So what are those tanks again? Where are they? They're Angleside, High School.
Ingleside, Mountain View tank, High School, and Upper Mountain View's tank at the Mason County Public Works area.
Okay.
And when will that one have water at the 400 gallons?
We're hoping to have water in that tank end of July.
Okay. That would be good because in August or September, if we needed water, there would be some 400,000 gallons of water in that tank too. So the facts are that theoretically, if we don't, let's just say we don't drill that well this summer, we are 400,000 gallons better than we were last summer because of the new tank.
We have 400,000 gallons more storage than we had last summer.
Good.
But we need to fill the tank.
Yeah, I understand. Now let's talk, just one other little question here that comes to me is that as far as drilling this well, we would not have the drill ready or water in it this summer. We're just looking to do the project. It won't be ready this summer.
That is correct.
That is a fact. Okay. And is it a fact that I went to you and I said, please give me options? I need options. I did it at a public meeting and I went to you one-on-one, half an hour, 15 minutes. I says, give me options. What are our options on this other than borrowing $1.3 million? And did you remember talking to me about some options or, I mean, I didn't get any options.
Well, Mayor, there is the option of just drilling the well without doing the associated plumbing, so to speak, with the pumps and the appropriate distribution network of pipes to put it into our system. But those are really the two options that you have. There is a third option that is even more cost prohibitive, and that is you could take Shelton Springs, the spring house, but we need to construct a disinfection facility. And I did look into the price tag of that. In 2009, that particular element was about $1 million. So you'd have construction inflation costs of 3 to 4% on top of that for basically
Okay.
6 years.
I appreciate you looking into that and giving us that option. So when we do bring Shelton, the plan is to bring Shelton Springs back online. So-
That's in the ultimate plan.
In the ultimate plan. And when we do that, we're looking at $1 million or more for the right filtration systems or whatever, plumbing and it's $1 million project.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I just want the facts on this to be out, kind of that, because what I've gotten is just fear, you know, and intimidation, and you got to do this or else the world's, you know, I don't respond to that really well. I didn't say it from you. I just say in the overall meetings and everybody, we get this, we got to do it or it's the end of the world. I'm never been against the well. What I'm against is that the city owes, who knows, close to $60 million. We borrowed $300,000 out of reserves just to keep the city going through this year. We are trying some things to stimulate growth. Our administrator's here for 2 more weeks. Our financial director is here for a couple of weeks. In my opinion, this is a decision. We need to start making financial decisions upon how we're going to fund all this stuff and building future infrastructure, I think with the new people on board. That's the rushing on this decision. You know, I just don't like saying you got to do it now, or else. And this is the first time I've kind of gotten out of you that there is an option. Are you open to just drill the well, put that into a budget, borrow the money? So we could just do the $400,000, gets the basic well, it's there ready to go. If there was an emergency, could we move halfway quick to get that water to work without the $900,000 cost of the plumbing? I mean, remember that? I talked about that option. And it sounds like it could be done, but it's not the right way or whatever. Well, it's not the right way to borrow another 1.3 or 64 million. I mean, I'm just trying to save the city from some financial things that I just don't want to go down, you know. So could we just drill the well, put the pump in there, probably. You don't have to, right?
For the $350,000 to drill the well, you would not have a pump at the bottom.
So you just drill the well.
You would just have the well, and that's better than not having the well.
Better than nothing. And it's also the possibility, if this is a priority, which it appears it's a high priority, well, why don't we put it in our budget? Why don't you put it in your budget? And let's take a look at it from a budgetary standpoint, and let's budget it over 3 years and pay cash for it. I've got to take on every single issue. And there's no surprise in how I feel about the financial debt the city's under. And I would be a disservice to the people that voted for me if I went along with every $1 million, $2 million, $4 million loan and continued to do this stuff the way we've always done it. And I'm going to give an example, and I'm going to be very clear on this. Basin 3 arguments were exactly the same as these arguments, that we had to do Basin 3, they were going to do this, and I said no, and I dug my heels in, I dragged it out for 3 years. It's not a water issue, it's a sewer issue. Only using it as an example of what I'm in the process of doing, and we got the $1.3 million grant up to $3.4 million in grants, and I'm looking for another $2 million in grants, and I'm looking for another $1 million in grants, and the ratepayers don't have to pay for any of it. That's how I approach these infrastructure projects, and that's where I am on the situation. So, and again, my opinion hasn't changed, but I want to be very clear. I use the sewer example just as an example of how we can do it on water systems, we can use it on other things, and so I'm all for the well, but I just want to see the money. We talked about a grant here. What about this grant? So how much is the grant of the $1.3 million project? Commissioner Moore said we have a grant involved with that one.
The grant dollars were already used on phase 1 of the project.
All right, and
all of this would be considered loan monies at 1% interest.
Right.
And the cost of that interest over the 20-year life is right around $500,000 worth of interest.
All right. And so I am concerned about the ratepayers, I am concerned about the water, sewer, and garbage bills, and I'm concerned that the city just hits a pause button. Imagine there's a great big pause button, and we're just going to hit the pause button on future infrastructure until we are a little bit closer to signing contracts and getting people to moving into these buildings and whatnot. And so I think the better days are ahead of us, but I would err on the side of caution. So, and I'm pretty passionate about the debt that the city has incurred and how we got there. We built the debt on low-interest loans. So low-interest loans is no positive thing in my book. It's a debt is what it is. So, but I took your time away from you, and you have a right to speak,
I
whatever.
will forgive you.
There you go.
Well, I've done a lot of thinking, and I did a lot of talking, and today when I left the building, I was ready to go, okay, let's just get the well drilled and get the booster on it and get it ready to go, and let's just do that part and leave it. And as we grow, as we get more money, as we go on, we can add these extra things. Was told that the water can be moved around from one tank to another, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then in the conversation was that the well wouldn't even be ready until probably September, October to use. So we've gotten through the summer months without that well. And it's coming into October and maybe November or December. It depends on how the bids come in and how the process goes and how it, you always can run into a snag. So I'm thinking to myself, we absolutely do not need that well this summer because it's not going to be ready till October-ish. So let's set it aside and let's just wait and see what happens. We can change our mind down the road a ways, but let's wait. I was voted in as financial commissioner, and I put a great deal of it's very important to me. And that is the responsibility to keep an eye on the city's finances. And I don't feel that I'm fair to the citizens if I'm going to say, yeah, let's borrow $1.5 million. Let's do this. I'm trying to figure out, can we freeze the rates? Can we lower the sewer rates? What can we do? But if we keep borrowing money, we're not going to be able to do that. And these citizens are so tired of this. They're fed up with it. And so my idea is to wait. We don't absolutely need that well this summer. And let's wait a while on this.
Now, excuse me, Commissioner Moore, but the other deal is we do have a weigh-in from the public. We have people that have come here tonight, and that this is a chance for everyone to say if they have something on their mind about this or not. Not easy decisions. It's a lot easier just to borrow the $1.3 million and get on with it and put the money on the taxpayers and tell them later, oh, we're sorry, we didn't really mean to do it or whatever. I just want to be honest with the ratepayers and let them know that I am doing everything I can to slow this boat up, So if you want to comment more now, we do have to listen to the people from the public too. So would you like to weigh in?
I do have more comments to make, but I would very much appreciate hearing from anyone here who's willing to speak on this.
I do think that with a new administrator coming in, it would be good to see what he weighs, what his ideas on this is. And it's just a few more weeks.
Well, and not that, but a financial director too. I don't know how much we owe. We've done a lot of work in the financial realm, adding new computer software programs in, and any new expenditures, no matter if it's a well or no matter if it's whatever it is we're in a situation where we need to kind of get our people in place and start looking at how we're doing business and what we're doing and actually where we are on this stuff rather than kind of like emergency knee-jerk kind of a thing. That's just saying kind of how I feel, but I do want to hear from the public, and we can talk more about this too. So if anybody wants to speak, all you got to do is sign in, and you're more than welcome to weigh in. So, anybody signed in?
I do have one, Your Honor, Mr. Reg Hearn.
Okay. State your name for the record. Do you live in the city limits of Shelton?
Yes, Reg Hearn. I live at 1213 West Franklin Street. And I thank you, commissioners, for the time to to make some comments, and I thank you for your service as well. I am a water utility manager. I've been doing water utility management for over 20 years. I'm a water distribution manager 3, and I carry a certified utility management, certification from Rural Water Association, National Rural Water Association. So I am not expressing comments from a point of no information on a general sense. I don't have specific information, but I have general information. One question I have, do the current sources meet peak day demand?
They do not meet maximum,
Not maximum, peak day demand.
the average daily demand. They are under right now.
Okay, okay. That may color my comments to some extent.
What about
because-
when the 500 gallons or 400,000 gallons tank is full? Would they at that moment?
No.
They wouldn't.
No,
Okay,
because
thank
the
you.
wells, yeah, thank you for that information, which I didn't have. Having said that, I'm very much in favor of another well so that you can meet peak daily demand. You need to be able to do that. I've never noticed a reduction in pressure or water availability. So that also colors my comments to a certain extent. One of the other things about myself is I'm a Scotsman, which means when I pull a old-fashioned nickel out of my pocket, the buffalo blinks from the light. And I absolutely hate compound interest. I don't care if it's 1%, I don't care if it's 0.5%, I don't care if it's 10%. That is money that is simply going out the door for absolutely no benefit whatsoever. And I would much prefer to see either the project be staged out of cash flow, and I've been doing this for 20 years. The water districts that I've managed don't borrow money, and we work everything out of cash flow. Currently, I manage a water district outside Mason County, and we've had some major challenges that we've had to face, and we have not only been able to do those out of cash flow, we've had to raise rates, and commissioners, I don't mind raising rates if it means improving infrastructure. I really object to raising rates to pay interest. Don't like that at all. That doesn't work. Phasing projects, that's a great way to go. I appreciate that very much. Plus, just from a ratepayer standpoint and from somewhat of a political standpoint, I voted for you two based on campaign promises that not only would there not be any more borrowing, but you would start carving away on the debt that we have. And I'm not alone. I believe Commissioner McDowell, you were 60% on your election, and Gary was reelected with a fairly comfortable margin. That's a mandate to me. And to me, if you approve any more borrowing, then you're disappointing me very much.
Thank you. Next.
Next up, we have Mr. Steve Andruski.
Commissioners, thank you. I'm Steve Andruski. I live at 538 Terrace View Drive. I am outside of the city, but I actually use city water. Gotcha.
Oh, there you go.
But first of all, I want to say that as I sit in this meeting, I'm hearing you talk about our new people coming on. We do have a gentleman sitting here who still is running the show.
He's our administrator.
And I think we should be listening to him as well. I also know that Tracy Moore is overseeing the Public Works Department. She is listening to the experts, and I think that's where she's getting her information. So we should value what our Commissioner Moore is saying. Financially, I want to talk about that. I mean, of course, we want to be reasonable, but I would say that I'm for, as what I'm hearing, at least put the well in. If you don't have it hooked up, it's there. If the need comes, we have it. But I've had a conversation earlier with a member here, and I just want to say, though, that I hope you guys keep looking forward, because we've been just fixing things. And I think I see this a lot in the city. I see it a lot in the county. I see it a lot in a lot of areas in our community where everybody's now at the place where it's to a place where we just need to get things fixed. We're taking care of things that need to be taken care of now because they've deteriorated so badly. let's get beyond that. We need to be looking down the line. We need to be preparing for what's coming. And I hope you, as our commissioners, will do that for this community. Look ahead of us. Get ready. Let's get prepared, okay? Thank you.
Next.
You have Mr. Toby Kevin.
I'm Toby Kevin. I reside at 709 East Terrace View Drive, Shelton. Some philosopher defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I heard what John had to say earlier, but I've heard that in this room on this and other subjects repeated times in the last couple of years. There's no way to avoid what Mayor Krantz says about the city having substantial debt. I mean, that's a fact. There's also very little uncertainty about how the city got to the position of having that debt. You can ask John Tarrant, you can ask his predecessors. They've already told you in my hearing. The city got that way by doing exactly what you're proposing, that is kicking the can down the road and hoping that things get better. Again, I contend that's a fact, that's not opinion. I would offer that providing basic water is a fundamental of government. And you can dance and you can talk politics and you can talk debt all you want, but you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, are we providing the fundamental things to our citizens that we're supposed to do? I'll close with observing that the city's decided to waive a bunch of fees over a period of time trying to invite people to come and create growth. I cannot imagine any prudent business manager, after doing the due diligence and finding out that we got a marginal water system and we're hoping that it doesn't crash, that person wanting to risk their business and their future by coming to our town. Compared to that, the fees is a pittance.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else signed in?
I have Mr. Randy, is it Lynch? Apologize.
I just had a couple questions. Suppose you choose the option, let's drill the well, maybe add the pump, do the other stuff later. Is there an expense to have people going out there? And does that expense reoccur if you have to go back later? Or sort of double paying for things?
If you could direct the questions to us, then we can direct staff.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a good question.
Shelton Commission, I have a question.
Right. Yeah, so we heard the question, and now what we'll do is ask our expert how that works. How much more will it cost if you did this in a 3-year pronged approach? 3 stages.
Okay, we're talking just well one,
Just
the
well
1.3 million
1.3.
versus just drilling the well.
And I don't need specific numbers, just a concept.
Well, anytime you mobilize a contractor, it costs you money. So anytime a contractor has to get back on board or you have to hire a new contractor, there's mobilization fees. Mayor, you indicated drilling the well and just leaving it and leaving the $900,000 of additional work till later. The only problem that you would have there is the mobilization and bidding the project and getting it from going out to add to physically having boots on the ground to build it is probably 90 days typically for most public works projects due to the paperwork and all the associated delays to get things moving. You could do an emergency type of in a real dire straits thing. Problem being is the availability of some of the parts and that, the bigger pumps and that may need to be, ordered and have some delivery delays. But, I mean, you certainly can do projects in phases, and it's your choice.
Sure. I guess his question to us and my question to you is, and I was a building contractor, most of my life, and what would happen is, let's say, for example, I wanted to build a garage, Well, I hire the concrete subcontractor, he comes out and pours the concrete, gives me a bid, and I get a framing bid from the framing contractor. I got a roofing contractor comes and does the roofing, and then I wait a year and I have the gentleman come and paint that building. Nothing, it doesn't cost me any more for any of those to be done that way. So if you hired a company specifically to drill the well, and they did it, then you had a company come set the pump, and they did it. And then you had all of the plumbing in the pump house and all of the bells and whistles attached to that. I don't see a big, I'm sorry, just my experience, I'm using your time, so let's just follow us for a second. I don't see in my world where there would be a big overrun on that, because the guy that drills that, maybe he has to come up with the same equipment to set that pump in there, and maybe there would be a cost or whatever. But again, interest on loans, even low interest loans, are another factor. But if you had another question, I'll let you get away with one more. And I won't talk.
Okay, so commissioners, it sounds like your opinion is you don't feel there are reoccurring, double costs for someone coming in, doing whatever, coming back later.
Well, it wouldn't be double costs, yeah.
Well, for example, suppose someone comes in and does something and you say, well, can you do the rest in 2 weeks? If it's the same person, and you're saying it's not, but suppose it's the same person, we have to pay them twice for the gas to drive to your place, whereas if they only came in once, you don't have to pay gas once. That's a simple example, because I know nothing about this kind of stuff. Yeah. But my question is, can you crunch the numbers? Like, suppose we do the phases, and you're saying, well, there's going to be inflation or whatever. Can you crunch the numbers? What's the cost of the phased approach? And then compare that with the lower cost of one time only, but borrowing the money, and including the 1% compound interest. And my other question is, and this is the question, suppose you decide, okay, we don't need to do it right away, but we need to do it, say, February of 2017 to be prepared for summer of 2017. There is maybe a true crisis. Can you borrow the money then? But, okay, now we want to fund it with the cash flow. Can these loans be prepaid? Suppose you borrow the money in February of 17, build your thing, borrow the money, but your philosophy is, no, we want to pay it up front. Can you pay off the loan, say, in over 3 years at 1%, and retire the debt at that time?
All right, those are good questions.
Rather than a 20-year glide path, which doubles, right, as a 50% cost.
Those are good questions, and I think Greg will think about those things over the course of his lifetime. I don't know. Do you want to answer those?
All I can say, I know for sure that there is no pre-pay penalty. We could pay them off, sure. We could pay them off sooner than later, and there wouldn't be any penalty. Yeah.
Would it be possible to crunch the number of phases, and then we can compare the cost of different? Because it sounds like it's not really a well issue. It's a financial.
Well, there
it's the
are
optimum financial way to do this.
There are options, and with every option, Mr. Clark came back with the option on Shelton Springs, and it's $1 million. I thanked him for that. Those are what I was looking for. In order to make an informed decision, it's good to look at what are the options, and what was left out of the conversation a month ago was the fact that 400,000 gallons is going to be added on. But in your defense, or the project's defense, that will still not get us to a magic number that gentleman, who is a well guy, said we need to be, the basic whatever it is. And so that still won't get us there. So that's good for me to know that. Now, anybody else signed in to speak?
Mr. Nathan.
Hi, I'm Nathan Stout. I do not live in the city, but I'm still going to talk. But I own property in the city, and I pay a water, sewer, and garbage bill. A couple of things, just to clarify for you, Gary. There's a night and day difference between building infrastructure products and building a house in stages. And it makes no sense, in my opinion, and I build these things. I do water system work, sewage pumping stations, sewer treatment plants. That's what I build. I'm a licensed plumber, water system distribution manager, and all that stuff. It makes no sense to drill a well and not put a pump in it and finish it completely, because to your point about coming along, if you get in a bind and put it online, that's when you get stabbed by the contractors, because you're in emergency mode. And you open your pocketbook and you say, make it work, and then they've got carte blanche to charge whatever they want. And something like this infrastructure project is going to take a lot more than just bid documents, and I would take issue with anybody that says this thing will be online by October, because by the time you get an engineer on board to spec the well, the casing, the depth, all that stuff, and you're going to need a hydrogeologist watching that driller go down to see when you get into water-bearing soils and get the yield that you want to get out of that well. Totally different animal. Then you need an electrical engineer. Once the hydrologist tells you how deep you're going to have to pump that up, that'll tell you how big your wire size is going to be, how big the pump's got to be, to give you the yield that you want.
It's designed, ready to go out to bid next week.
I didn't know that. That's excellent. Then I take that back. You probably could pull it off if you get the ball rolling, but it won't do you any good in 2016.
It won't.
None at all. And then, Tracy, you made some comments about putting the citizens at risk, and I think that's a bunch of BS. I don't think you've got any. Do you have any complaints from Department of Health about lack of water pressure in this city?
Yes.
Not water pressure, lack of storage.
Okay, but you have no complaints from your rate users about lack of water pressure, do you?
Not currently, no.
Okay, there you go. So if you had complaints, then I'd say you have a real bad problem. But if you're not seeing it, and to the point about, enjoy your retirement, Dave. He's going to be out of here in a couple of weeks.
You've been out of the loop. You're coming in this without knowing some of the
Right.
facts that are in play.
And I understand that. Yeah, now. But it doesn't make any sense to me now to jump into a project like this when some of your key people are leaving. If you could get through this and maybe have a cooler head approach to it and get your ducks in a row so that you might get some more competitive bids. You're heading into the building season right now. If you put that thing out, contractors are busy in this kind of work. The big boys that do this kind of work, they're all busy. So that means your prices are coming up. You put it out for bid in October, November, heading into winter, you might get a better price, a lot better price, because they're hungrier. Okay?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Anybody else?
We have Ms. Lisa Renfro.
Yeah, I had a question. If one of the wells is dry or doesn't have enough water, is that what you're saying? Is that?
Sometimes in August, yeah, it
Oh,
runs
okay.
real low.
So how deep is that well? That,
You can direct the question as I've been told both. It's either 270 or it's 750. So is it 275?
I believe the pump is sitting at 270.
Okay.
and what aquifer is that hitting? Is it hitting any aquifers?
Yes.
And would it, the other drill that you're going to drill, is that going to hit the same aquifer or different?
You want?
Well, we don't generally do this, Lisa. What you do is you direct staff us, and then and this, some of these questions, it gets a little bit hard, kind of like,
Yes.
but feel free to answer Lisa's questions, please.
The geologist and the design currently has the new pump at down 750 feet. So I believe we're in a different aquifer.
Okay, so my other question is that if they don't hit water, they hit something else like oil, or if the water is not tested, doesn't pass testing per se.
There's always a risk. There's always a risk.
Would that be a good reason
Nothing's
to do it in
guaranteed.
favor? Or would you have something in the contract to say, a conditionary clause that they can, if the water's not suitable or something's wrong, or if they find a better bid, they can do the other phases with a different company?
I believe that when you drill a well, you do your best place that you're going to put your well in, and you get what you get. I don't think there's any guarantees. You have knowledge about where the aquifer is and whatnot. Okay, any other comments on the well issue? Nobody? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I do too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I do too.
I was just asking the people out there. So,
Okay.
Commissioner Moore?
All right. I think that I would like to make the point that we have been under notice by Department of Health, and even though I think Nathan's a good plumber, I don't agree with him as far as the risk to our citizens. When we are identified as having not enough fire flow and redundancy, that is a risk to our citizens. The independent contractor that did this report for us is very clear, and I'll just read a couple things here. Well 1 currently produces supply, however, continuous pumping creates excessive drawdown. Therefore, well 1 is not considered a dependable source of supply. Without it, we may not have this sufficient supply to meet the 2017, what is MDD?
That's the maximum daily demand.
Okay, maximum daily demand. So hydrologists have recommended replacement of this well to resolve this issue. It is recommended the city's current efforts to develop a new well designated Well 5 be fast-tracked to the extent possible. These guys are experts. They did a big study on all of our well systems, so they're fully aware that we have a new well that's ready to come online. So they're taking that into consideration. Redundant supply sources reduce risk of water supply shortages and provide flexibility in operating and maintaining the system. And so the Upper Mountain View pressure zone currently is supplied by Well 3 alone and requires a second supply source, which would be the Well 5 supply. So that is the key for some supply redundancy. I think that we have to respect the experts, and I'm interested in what Mr. Hearn had to say about what I'm thinking I'm hearing is that you save the money up and pay as you go, but you raise the rates, which we're reluctant to do around here. We don't have that capacity built up, and if we're thinking of freezing the rates or not going through with the scheduled rate increases, I have no idea how we're going to build a supply of money up to pay as we go. So as I said before, I think that the decision that we're making is to follow through with this good loan that we have. True, it is more debt. It brings us closer to that $60,000 ceiling there, but it also is done, and we have sufficient water, and we can market ourselves as having sufficient water for building, for industry, for anybody who wants to come in. We also meet compliance with the Department of Health, which, believe me, they're watching, otherwise they wouldn't have given us a 1% loan. They are watching us. And so if we choose not to do this, I'm not sure that we'll get good funding from them in the future and may be called on the carpet for that. So I think also, and we all have these numbers, so I would just urge everyone to really look at these numbers that we have that gives a breakdown on costs. I honestly didn't understand this when I first got it from Dave. So if we do these improvements today, our additional cost, which is the debt service or the interest that we pay, is $510 over 20 years, $510,000 over 20 years. If we wait 3 years or 4 years, a 4-year delay adds $590,000, and that's recognizing that we have a 3% construction cost inflation rate, and then also we have a 5% currently inflation rate for steel, which that will bring the costs even higher. So the longer that we delay, the more it's going to cost. And I believe so firmly that we really need to be responsible and do this, and so I don't know. I guess I just am interested in what your comfort level is with looking at that. I mean, are you comfortable saying, let's put it off for 4 years and pay that much?
Well, I'm
money?
not really saying put it off for 4 years, but I am saying let's put it off, speak to the new administrator, see his views on this, weigh it, and we don't need it until 2017, basically, because it won't be up and running till October, November, and that's when our water is going to be not being used as much in those months. So that's what I'm just saying, instead of making a decision right here on this, let's wait a little bit longer and really weigh the facts on this.
And I just would say this, that I just do not function under threats. I don't like being threatened that we're going to be under moratorium, or that our water isn't safe to drink, or that all these things. And you know, Toby Kevin said a brilliant thing. He said doing the same thing over and over and over, I think, is what he said. It's idiocy, or it's stupid insanity. Yeah. So, yeah. So, Toby, you were the second one on that. But here's the deal: borrowing low-interest loans over and over and over and over again to fund infrastructure that for new businesses that haven't got here yet. All that bill is paid by the local ratepayers, and that's why we're in the situation. So I would reverse your thing instead of the blame on what we're doing, and put the reality is that we are low interest loan or high interest loan, continually borrowing money to do things before the need is. And I can change. I've said I'm open to doing this in phases. I'm looking at other options, but I don't do real well when people tell me it's a life or death situation, because I do not believe it is. So I think that my decision and I go to bed and sleep very easily on these things, is to err on the side of we ain't going to get the water anyway. I'd like to put this off till we get the new administrator in here, a new financial person in here, talk to them about this loan, talk to them about this, and I would put this decision off probably closer to January or February or sometime like that, because nothing's going to happen until then. Everyone brings big drama into this stuff, and everybody freaks out like, oh. But I think we got lots of time to relax and let's get that new tank filled. That's 400,000 gallons. Let's get nice fresh water in that tank on top of the 1, 2, 3, or 4 other tanks we got, and relax and make this decision when cooler heads prevail.
Okay,
Yeah. So did you want to talk first?
I just wanted to make a comment. When I was talking to Greg and Mike today, I was talking about, it has been kind of a fear factor that people are talking. We got to get this well built, drilled, because we don't have this well anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, hot summer, fires, the little old lady lives down the street, the man on the hill lives in the mansion, $1 million mansion. What happens if those places catch on fire? We can't think of that, because the well isn't going to work, and we won't have an up and running well until late this fall anyway. So I'm just saying, let's just put it off just a little ways, and to get some input with the new administrator and the new finance director that comes in, and let's look at crunch our numbers again and see what we can do.
There might be grants out there. We don't have to pay for this at all. I mean, we don't even have a grant writer anymore. I mean, is it an impossibility that we could get a grant to pay for this if we're in such dire straits? I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody knows. Maybe the new financial director says, did you know there's this whole grant over here? This is not something we have to decide right now. I think we are all very much interested in having quality water and quality pressure for our citizens, but I drag my feet and I ask every question that comes before me, take our city's debt extremely serious, and I do not respond to people trying to put this fear thing in me like it's the end of the world. So,
and when I was campaigning, I went upon several people I talked to. There's a family with 4 children, and the water rates were so high in their household that they limited their children to having one bath a week. Now that's, after a hot day playing outside and can't bathe your kids because the water rates are so high. So I'm thinking of the citizens, and let's do more research on this, see what we can come up financially with this.
Did you want to speak?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Good. So, we have to realize that, true, we won't have the water for a number of months. The longer we put it off, the longer it will be before we have the water. I believe there is a sunset. That is part of it, is we have to have construction done within a certain time. We're still out of compliance with the comprehensive plan and DOH. Those are important things to consider.
What is the sunset date?
The date we need to have the construction complete is June of 18.
Okay.
We got a few weeks.
So, and the costs keep going up. So,
Well,
and.
these are things that we
Sure.
really still need to talk about.
There's nothing wrong with everything that's been said here
Well,
tonight. Everyone's got an element of truth, you know?
Well, and the reason that I really wanted to talk about it is that the two of us have pretty much talked it to death over the last 2 years. But I wanted to hear what Kathy's thoughts were.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are my
I think we all want the same thing, and we're going to get it, and we're going to move forward, but it's just that it may take a little bit longer is all. And I mean, and we've talked about it. I think a lot of good points. I learned more tonight. I mean, I've learned some valuable things about that help me make my decision. So as we continue to learn and work together, we're going to get the well drilled, and we're going to be up there. We're going to have that water pressure where it needs to be. But I do not make rash decisions, and I think about things a lot. And I think about the people that I talk to that want us to take seriously their water, sewer, and garbage rates, and take seriously our debt. And that's kind of where I am. So
I want one more point here, is that also I think it's important to remember, and I don't know, Kathy, if you knew this, that this is built into our rate system already. So the costs for this are built in already. So it's not like the rates are going to go up if we do this.
more than they would. Any other comments on this subject from us? I don't think so. And this was not an action item. This was just a discussion, and I'm glad we had it. I appreciate everybody that came and discussed that. And so if we're ready to move forward, I think we are ready for new business. And that would be, again, you, Mr. Clark, talking about a vehicle.
Yes, Mayor. We currently had one of our construction inspector's van. His van failed last year. They threw a rod through the engine, and we had to take it to the junkyard. So we put in the budget for 17, in 16, in this year's budget to replace that van. We've gone out on the state contract, Department of Enterprise Services, and secured a price for a Ford Escape of $20,221.78, and it's my desire to replace the van with this vehicle, and those monies would come out of our savings for the engineering program. So
I thought we approved this last week. Didn't we vote on this last week?
we just had a touch on it last week.
Just a touch.
It wasn't $20,000. We were.
2,000.
Yeah,
That's a
Different
different
car.
vehicle.
and we're not doing that one?
Different vehicle. That's where my mind was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no.
No.
Well, in the briefing, it's saying 2017 Ford Escape.
This is a new van to replace Sam's salvaged vehicle.
Okay.
The vehicle last week was a opportunity we had through the PUD 3. They are surplusing a vehicle for
Right.
$2,000.
Different vehicle.
And we had the van at the time, but this just recently happened with the van, threw a rod into the engine? That's something?
That happened last summer.
Oh, okay.
This is in your budget?
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion about this?
No, I do have, just one thing is, I'm glad to see you're using the Department of Enterprise Services. That's a group I don't know a lot about, but I've been really impressed whenever I've met with them at how they work to get good prices.
Well, it says that, any more questions, if we concur, that we can place this on the consent agenda for May 23rd, 2016, and authorize the city administrator to make any necessary budget modifications. So I
Yes.
believe we concur to get the rate.
Yep.
Okay, and is there any administration report, Mr. O'Leary, you wanted to bring in here?
Just only one announcement. That's a week from Wednesday will be my farewell reception at the Civic Center, 2 o'clock here at the Civic Center. So it's all comers if you want to say goodbye.
Well,
So.
I'm looking forward to the event there. You know, it's been we've gone through a lot of journeys together, and you've been extremely helpful, especially in my trying to get that sewer funding coalition going, you know. And so I'll remember our times together forever back in the war room with Amanda Ondrick and calling every mayor in the state and pushing to try and get money to go for. So anyway, we're moving into different areas, all of us. So we appreciate your service to the city of Shelton.
You said that's next Wednesday, a week from this
Week from Wednesday,
25th.
yeah, 10
So you
days.
only have one more commission meeting with us?
One more?
I only have one wish, and I won't share. You might know what that would be. But
No drama. Okay, here's where we are now. We're coming around to a point of another general public comment. I think we've said quite a bit tonight, so I don't see anybody else signed up for more, do we? No, okay. So, administration final touches.
I'll have just some for me. I will have for you next week a contract for you to engage an interim city administrator. This will be a consultant contract, and I'll have, I don't have all the details together right now, but we'll need to do this a week from Monday because I won't have but just a couple more days here. Also, it's my intention in a week to compile a report for you on our performance measures for 2015, and I'll make that my last contribution to the city, so you can see how we've been doing. I think generally we've been doing pretty well. So,
All right. Thank you very much for your comments. Any other administration final touches?
None.
Hearing none. Our next meeting will be Monday, May 23rd, 2016 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.